The story seems a bit crazy, doesn't it? Seems like Jesus should have told the apostles, if he saw what this woman was going to do, was going to give her last penny to the church, go over and stop her. Let us give her some money. Isn't that the way it should have been? That would be our approach. But Jesus doesn't let it happen that way. He sees what's in her heart, and he sees it's a real act of love. She's giving all she has to the church, to God. Perhaps it was so beautiful to the Lord that he didn't want to interrupt it. I'm reminded of, maybe I shared this with you before, on the day of my ordination, after the ceremony at St. John's Cathedral, there was a reception for me and all the guests at the cathedral. And it's customary for a newly ordained priest to give his first priestly blessing to whoever would like it because it carries with it some special graces. So I was standing in a special place in the hall by a kneeler. My mother and father were on either side of me, and people were coming up, and I was giving my first priestly blessing. After quite a while, maybe towards the end, an elderly woman, looking rather poor, with a coat that was kind of shattered, and came up and asked for my blessing. So I blessed her. And then she took my hand and she kissed my hands. I was so humbled. And then she put some money into my hands. And I started to say no, and I wanted to give it back to her. She looked so poor. But my mother leaned into me and said, "You have to take it. She's not giving it to you, she's giving it to God." And I took that money. And I've never forgotten that lady. I prayed for her. I still have the money. It was $1 bill, 1 quarter, and 4 dimes, $1.65. And I had a little box that had Haley's department store on the front. It was probably from their jewelry department. And I put it in that box, and I have it in a drawer that I open every day. And I'm reminded of the generosity of that woman who gave her all out of love for God. I think about St. Elizabeth Ann Seton. She was born of a well-to-do family. They were Episcopalians in New York, and her husband had a good job, but he became ill with tuberculosis. They married and had 5 children, and he lost the job, and because of his health, they moved to Italy, where they thought the climate would be better for his health. They were only there a short time when he passed away. Well, there was a Catholic family that were near where they were staying who saw the need of Elizabeth Ann and started to help caring for her children until they could get back to America. She was so impressed with the kindness and the love of this family who were strangers and giving to her and her 5 children that she decided to investigate the Catholic faith. And she converted and had all of her children received into the church. She went back to New York and she made a living by teaching. She ended up founding the first congregation in America of the Sisters of Charity, who became a teaching order of sisters. She then opened a school, and it was the first Catholic school for children in the United States. She died at the age of 46. Can you imagine? A convert to the faith, a widow, a mother, 5 children, founding a religious order in Catholic schools at 46. She was a person who gave her all. She gave her all from her heart for others. I think that's what Jesus constantly teaches us, to give of ourselves for others. And Elizabeth Ann just comes to me as a widow who certainly did that. And I think of all of you who are widows and widowers here in the church today. My heart always goes out to you when I see you every week. I know the pain you still miss your spouse, but I see you still faithful to the church. I still see you being generous to the church. I still see you living your faith. And that certainly is a blessing for you, for the parish, for me. And I'm grateful for all of you who do that. We owe a debt of gratitude today for our veterans. Tomorrow's Veterans Day, who risked their lives and some who lost their lives for our safety, for our freedom of religion, for our peace, and who still offer themselves to others, offer themselves for that same cause. We owe them a debt of gratitude. And so today we ask the Lord ourselves, what is our motivation? Jesus really got on the back of the Pharisees and scribes because their motivation was self-centered, and they were taking from people rather than giving. And Jesus wants all of us to look into our hearts and say, like when you put your envelope in the basket on Sunday, what's your motivation? Is it because I have to? Or is it because I really want to because of the love of God and the love of his church? I suspect that's what the motivation is for all of us. But it's good to remind ourselves what our motivation is. And so we ask the Lord today to accept our gratitude for all the many blessings he's given us. And we ask him to help us always to remember to give of what we have. The prophet Elijah in the first reading and the widow both had to totally trust in God. He was being sought after by enemies of the prophet. They wanted to kill him. God directed him to go out into the desert. He didn't want to go, but he trusted God and he went to the desert. And then he was hungry and he had no food. And God directs him to this poor widow who only has enough to make one more meal for her and her son, and then they would die. And he tells her, God said to go ahead and do it because God will never let the jar of flour or the jar of oil run dry. And for a whole year, she was able to feed her son and the prophet and herself because they trusted in God. It's a good example. It's a good example that we have to have that absolute trust in God. And so today we thank the Lord for his many gifts and blessings that he always gives to us. And we ask him to continue to give us generous hearts to reach out in love to those who are in need.